Yeah, so tell me a little bit about some of the competition you guys have, game
Um,
competitions you guys have participated in.
I was in the first one, which was the lockdown, and we didn't finish our game actually. It was kind of, I don't know, I felt bad. I mean, that was when I first started. When I first started the school, I didn't have any experience at all.
Uh-huh.
But I want to go for concept art, so that was a good thing because when I went to that, I actually got to do the concept art for the game, even though it didn't get finished. So after that, when we had the next game competition, I wanted to finish it really bad. But
Sure.
we didn't finish it again. But we're still working on it, so that's why I stay here every day. It's so I can work on that.
Okay, cool. But you still got to walk away with a lot of experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of
And a
experience.
lot of exposure and a taste for what it was going to be like when you really do get into the industry,
Yeah.
which is really awesome. So,
Oh,
how about you?
for me, I was also in the lockdown. At the time, I did not know any kind of coding, but I understood the flow of how the program is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my contribution. But the next time when we had the competition, I knew how to code now, and then I was the AI. I never had AI classes yet. But I just gave it a shot, and somehow it worked, and we
Great.
finished the game. So it was really great.
Great. And it forced you to kind of break out from what you were learning in school
Yes,
and figure out what is AI, how to do AI,
Right.
research AI, probably
Research.
talk to some of the people in the industry who were doing AI. So great, and you started your networking, of course.
and work with the other team as well, and help some of some of the stuff they were working on. Also, great experience learning how to work with different programmers.
Correct.
We all code differently, and that was quite the challenge today. And it was a great experience.
Right, because of course when you do join a real company, you're going to be joining a team of
Right.
30, 40, 100, 200 people, and you're going to find, and sometimes you're working with a studio in North America, another studio in UK, another studio in China, and you all have to be on the same page. And just as you said, just working with programmers,
Right.
that you all coding differently, let alone 3 studios in 3 different parts of the world.
Yeah.
You all have to be on the same page. So
Learn to adapt.
so it's a good learning lesson.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. How about you?
Well, I was in the last game competition, but just very briefly in a sense, because the team I actually got into, they kind of had the wrong idea of where my skill level was at.
Uh-huh.
Because I told them specifically, like, at that point, I didn't have a programming class for almost a year because I had transitioned from online to the campus.
Uh-huh.
And so I had to wait till Sean's class group reached the programming class I needed to take. So I told them, I'm like, I can test for your game, but I can't program. So I didn't end up completing the game with them, but the programmer who did their game, his name's Kirk, I'm still like in heavy contact with him, so I learn a lot from him. Whenever I need help, I can go to him.
Awesome.
And during, he was trying to initially show me where I could help with parts of the game, but I wasn't quite there yet, But it was a
Right.
good kind of experience because it gave me a contact, which is, an upperclassman. Help, now I have an additional source of somewhere to go to for help. So that's kind of what I gained from the last game
Plus
competition.
a context too of when you're going to be learning in school and about programming, it put it contextually for you because you already had to face it in the real world environment.
Mhm.
So I bet you were just even getting more out of your classes as a result of it because you sort of were already struggling and grappling with those techniques and that thought process.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
and what you were saying there actually came really into play in our last class. We had a 2D game programming class, and my game, I felt pretty safe to say, was one of the least buggy of the games because I knew what to look out for.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of really simple things. Some other people
To
left
you.
out. To me they seemed simple, but it was clean. By that point, I had gained a lot of experience I needed because of other classmates and because of like I said, the other friend I made through the game competition. So the extra stuff really helps for the mainstream stuff too, like that you have to do in class.
Right, exactly. And how about yourself? Were you involved with some of those contests?
I was involved in the last 2 game competitions, and I was also at the lockdown. The lockdown was a lot of fun. Just being able to experience making a game within 12 hours, that was really exciting. I was, as much as I strive to be a concept artist, I wasn't the concept artist for that team because there was another stronger artist who directed us. The other two competitions, I learned quite a few valuable lessons as far as not needing to spread myself so thin.
Mm-hmm.
First year, I tried juggling, I think it was 3 teams, and I ended up staying on 1. And the second year, I decided, okay, I'm going to stick with 1 team, focus all of my effort on that. And unfortunately, we didn't get the game done, but that team is still together, and we're still working on a whole new project outside of class and everything, so it's still fun.
Awesome. That's why when I talk to folks, I really encourage them to be careful about the scope of the project they're taking on. Because of course we always have these big ideas, and what we really can execute in a short amount of time is different. And of course in our industry, we're always looking for what you can complete, not what you didn't complete.
Right.
So with student projects and final projects and anything, I'm always encouraging folks to really get real with what is your time, what can you really accomplish in that time, and scope it appropriately so you actually have a finished product at the end. But that's why you went through that experience, and now you know to do that, much better. So that's cool. So I guess through this experience, you could probably relate to and understand why Agile and Scrum methodologies are becoming really popular in game development, because that is a structure and a layout of how, it's basically how we're going to make the game from beginning to end. So you could probably see how
I see that
plays very importantly.
Especially since I did 2 games and didn't finish, so I understand that. But it's kind. I think it's kind of a thing where you have to. All of us have to understand it, because I kind of understood it from the first time. So when we got to the other game, I was trying to explain that to the other people, but I'm not the leader. I can't be like, oh, you guys have to do this. I can't.
Oh, to add to that, what you just said, the agile thing. For the game competition, the only reason why we finished our game was that. Before we even started anything, we just planned, okay, what kind of method are we going to use to manage the team? Who's going to work on who's going to be leading it, and that kind of thing. So we used that method with our previous class. We used that knowledge. So that's why we actually finished the game.
Awesome. And did you guys have daily meetings?
Updates, a weekly, 3 times a week.
Okay.
Meetings.
Awesome.
And we were actually able to add more by the end time. I think 50% more of what we were planned, because we had that meeting.
Great.
So,
You'll find, in the industry when you're actually working at a company, that they're going to have those meetings on a daily basis.
Right.
So, the daily stand-ups, which are great. Awesome.
For me, I had a lot of practice milestones with that project I was telling you about for my 2D. Basically, I'll be honest, I studied the methodologies a while ago, so sometimes I'm a little fuzzy on which name was which.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, my approach to make sure we had about 8 different goals our full 2D game had to meet. Otherwise, you wouldn't get a full score on it. So I was kind of at this point where I wanted to include a lot of goodies in my game, a lot of extra stuff.
Sure.
So I maybe had about 5 out of 8 done with the full steps, and it was due on a Monday. It was about Thursday, so I was like, okay. At this point, I'm like, if I'm not done adding these extra things I want by Friday, then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday go to just finish, make sure everything of those gets in, because those were easy. They actually weren't that hard to complete. But, it was actually, strangely enough, within the class, I think maybe only 3 of us, me and Mr. Lee here included, finished all 8 of the requirements. Everyone else, they got too busy focusing on all these extra, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this,
Sure.
but they didn't have a finished game to complete.
Of course.
So
Plus
that
feature creep happens all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed,
So-
most of the class didn't have a complete assignment, so that was in itself really rewarding,
So you
it's
can
good.
see how tempting it is, in a team, because of course you want to give it all the bells and whistles,
Mhm.
but yet we've got a development schedule, we've got a time commitment, we've got a budget. Sometimes it's a publisher where we have to report into with milestones, and it just sometimes doesn't allow for those extra goodies. you've really got to do, the basic experience, and then if you've got the time, go back and, and put in the fun stuff,
And
or
I
the
even-
extra stuff.
I even told that in the class, if you remember this one, Sean. I told people, I was like, when I was at Activision, there was times where they removed entire modes of the game within
Sure.
the last few weeks because they're like, it's too buggy. There's no way we're going to be able to fix this in 2-3 weeks. And they would take out co-op from this whole. It's been in the game this whole time, but you know what? It's not working right. Scrap it. It's gone.
Right, because it's better to release the game on time and then come up with a update, which would then include that, which of course gives you the extra time to create and fix those problems,
Exactly.
rather than not ship the game on time, especially if it's not in sync with marketing and sales and distribution and all the other things that have to go on. So you
That
can
came in really
understand.
handy. Yeah.
You can understand why those tough decisions have to get made sometimes. That's great. How about you? Have you had any experience with?
Milestones, definitely. The first year that I participated in the game competition, there were none. All three of the teams that I was on were somewhat disorganized, and it just got worse from there. But it was the lockdown that was all day. The programmers and the artists, although we worked together, we also had our own milestones separately, so that we worked at the same time to get the project finished.
Sure.
And that worked really, really well. And the team that I participated into with the second year that I participated in the game competition, we did and we didn't have our milestones. We started out really, really well, and then we started becoming too lenient on ourselves. So that with those lessons that we learned from the competition, that's what we're applying towards the project that we're working on our own now, in order to get it done. Even though there are no requirements, we're setting it up on our own. So it's both a combination of self-discipline and learning from an experience that we had those guidelines set up for us. Now we have to set them up on our own.
Sounds like it was a great experience. So all of you really taught you guys not only, okay, I've got a team, how to operate the team, but we all had to take different roles in the team. And then, of course, the importance of the leads, understanding agile, techniques so that they can actually run those projects. And why PMP certification and agile is becoming so important in the game industry. Used to be we do more of a waterfall approach, which means basically we'd spend $3 million and $4 million, whatever the budget was, and at the end, the game wasn't any fun, and yet we spent all the money. So, hence why so many companies went out of business. With an agile type methodology, that really just can't happen because, of course, there's daily meetings. Then there's, of course, sprints. So you're actually kind of making a mini version of the game that actually functions. So all through the process, even if for some reason it has to be cut short, you still end up with a finished product. You still end up with something that's complete. So you can see the importance of that through that experience, which is really awesome, and why I encourage students and people trying to get into the industry to get involved in projects and make games and form small teams or become part of mods or large teams, so they learn to function and operate that way. Because without that first-hand experience, it just becomes frustrating, and it feels like you're just dealing with your parents. Well, why do we have all these rules? And why is there this structure? And and of course, why would a company make some decision to take one of the major features out before they release the game? It sort of makes sense, when you're forced to go through that, by yourself or in a team. So hence the importance of course, practicing. So I'm kind of wondering from you guys, how has your perspective changed on the interactive entertainment industry now that you're in a program, a college program, and training for it? How has that changed from when you came in before and today?
I am both terrified and excited, especially wanting to get into the industry as a concept artist. I've learned just exactly how competitive it is, and I look at other concept artists' work from all kinds of companies, from Ubisoft to Valve to Nintendo, anything, to even a Squaresoft, and their work is incredible. And I try to use it as motivation, but then at the same time, like, I can't get to that level as quickly as I want to. So it's a matter of again, self-discipline, and then the patience.
Sure.
I don't want to rush myself and overwhelm myself.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, you remind me as you're saying that, my brother who's an artist as well, you know, focused on black and white art for years before he moved into color. And I always kept saying to him, what are you doing? Why aren't you making these colorful images? And he kept saying to me, well, until I really master black and white, why would I walk into color? So it's,
Right.
you know, kind of the same thing you're saying, and just giving yourself the time to teach yourself and learn and raise your skills, because you'll get out there because you know what you have to do.
Learning
So,
to walk
that's great.
before you can run, of
Yeah,
course.
exactly. How about you?
I would definitely say when I used to be a tester, we'd find really outrageous bugs. You know, we would say, "Oh, stupid devs." You know, then the minute I became that dev, you know, I find the simplest little problems like that game I was making was a tribute and recreation of Mega Man X, which Capcom did. And you know, I've looked at the credits before. 5-6 people programmed that game, and I'm sitting there reverse engineering what they did, and it was the hardest thing sometimes just to make him, you know, if I push the right key, he's facing right. If you push the left key, he's facing left. Sometimes he faced the wrong way after I pushed the key, and I'm sitting there thinking, and I was calling them dumb for not being able to do this crazy thing in a 3D world. I'm like, it's never again. You know, I realized just how hard it actually is. You know, and I mean, eventually I figured out those problems, but boy, I mean, it gave me just a really deep respect for how much time goes into even what we would consider, or not we, because we're the students, but you know, what gamers would think is really easy stuff actually just takes hours and hours to figure out. I mean, once you figure it out, then I mean, it sticks with you. That problem will stick with you. But yeah,
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I also had that mentality when I was still a gamer. Like, those dumb devs. But now that I actually am a programmer and working on programs, like, this is actually really tough. And when I started, I thought I would just read through school, and as long as I get my grades up, I should be fine when I graduate. But the more I research in the game industry, I actually need to learn more programs on my own. The newer stuff, I need to learn them as well. So that taught me to get my gear up.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been doing that a lot.
Great. How's your perspective changed?
Well, in my perspective, I used to play a lot of games, you know, like all the gamers, and I would always see, like, because I do want to be a concept artist, but for the games that I've worked on, I've been an animator, so I would always see the games and I would say, like, oh, why didn't they, like, make that smoother? Like, it's just like 2 frames that they did. And then now that I've started making games, and I realized that you can't be doing all those frames because you want to be able to do the action quick. So that's why they did things like that. And I realized that, and like when I first started doing animation for the games, I would do all those frames like, oh, it looks so good. And then when you play the game, it moves really slow, and you're
Right.
like, now this is not fun because he's like slow motion moving. And so I had to start trying to figure out those techniques that they used in the games to make it look better without sacrificing the animation.
Sure. Oh, gee, there's memory restrictions.
Yeah, yeah, stuff like that. Because like, oh, I had like
Right.
50 frame animation,
Sure.
but you can't put that in.
Sure, exactly. Well, I'm really pleased to hear about your experiences and what you've learned, you know, as you start to go through the college program. You know, it just demonstrates the importance of practice and training and learning, you know, what other people have been challenged with and faced with. So it's really actually very exciting and gives more meaning to my topic when I speak to people, because of course you've refreshed that for me in my mind. So I really appreciate that. You know, it's been a while, you know, since I've actually had to cut code and make a game, because of course I changed my career midstream to be more of a coach and a recruiter. So it's really great to hear that these lessons and things are still going on, because it really is the way to do it, is to practice. Practice does make perfect. So really proud of you guys, and I hope that it continues to keep pushing you, to push your ability to what you learn, you know, so that you can be as good as you can be, because of course that's what pays off at the end with getting the salaries and the jobs that you'll get, which will be very different from what other people get. You'll be amazed at the results of even the entry-level jobs that you get, as opposed to some of the other people who aren't as focused as you are. You'll be quite happy with the payoff.
Thank you.